Okay, so this presentation is for Dr. Hall's multimedia project. And the first thing I want to tell you is not to be scared. A lot of people feel like this is a short amount of time, it's a major project, and they won't be able to get it done on time, or they're afraid that their lack of knowledge will keep them from getting the project done. And I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. Everyone is creative to some degree. A lot of people are worried that their project won't turn out well because they're not creative. But the fact is that everyone is creative to some degree. That's why you're working in a team, and you need linear thinkers just as well as creative thinkers to make this work. Video creation is a step-by-step process, and as long as you follow the steps, you should be good. A good video project is created before editing. That means before anything gets used in the software that I'm going to show you, there's a whole lot of stuff that has to be taken care of before that. And as long as you follow the step-by-step process, then you should be good to go. Planning on your part, make sure that you have time to do a good job. On the other hand, not planning and leaving it until the last minute will reflect on your grade. It's sad to watch when Dr. Hall looks at some videos at the end of the quarter that look like they might have been a good idea, but they're not well planned, they don't flow, they don't make sense, they use other people's video for the whole time. They just haven't followed the steps to make sure that they're going to produce a good video. And if you want a good grade, you're going to have to produce a good video. The mechanics of that are not difficult. It's all about following the step-by-step process and doing what you need to do on time and leaving yourself enough time to create a good video. So let's start with step one, your communication. This video is a communication. There are all kinds of communications. There's visual communications, movies, there's oral communications, there's music, there's written communication. There's all types of ways of communicating. So you kind of have to break it down of the type of communication that you're working with. How has already been decided for you. How you're going to communicate was decided by Dr. Hall when he gave you this assignment that's going to end up being a multimedia video. What do you want to communicate? That's really important for you to figure out. That there's an overall topic of what you're going to talk about, but what specifically you want to be able to communicate in your 10 minutes is up to you. What's the feasibility of that communication? You only have 10 minutes, so you probably don't want to take out big topics like racism. Okay, that's a big topic to take care of in 10 minutes. You have to make sure that you can do a good job of discussing and showing this topic in the time that you have allotted. How is that communication important? This is specifically important when you're talking about academic communications. So how is this communication important in the grand scheme of academia? So, for example, if I had 10 minutes to do a video, I would not do my video on Martin Luther King. The reason why I wouldn't do my video on Martin Luther King is, first of all, that's a pretty broad topic in itself, but more importantly, there's already so much information out there. There's written information, there's visual information, there are sound bites, there's so much information out there. If I do a 10-minute presentation on Martin Luther King, what am I really adding to the academic community? Now, if I took a less known person in the civil rights movement and really delved into that, where there's less information out there about that person, now I'm actually adding to the academic community. Who will receive your communication? Well, the first person is who? Dr. Hall. You're going to turn your communication into him. He's going to be the one viewing it, and so he's your target audience. He's part of your target audience. Target audience. He's not the only part of your target audience. If your communication is good enough, it'll be viewed on the university channel. You might want your parents to view it. You might want your friends to view it. You might want other people to see this communication. So that's called your target audience. It's who's going to be receiving your communication. You need to keep them in mind when you're developing it. And what do you want your audience to do, or how do you want them to act once they have received your communication? This is an important part, because there should be some goal. You should have some goal in mind. Is it to add to their knowledge? You know, for example, that's why I wouldn't do something on Martin Luther King. It'd be pretty hard to find something that no one knew about Martin Luther King to add to the body of knowledge. Do you want them to do something about what you're talking about? Is there an action you would like them to take? These are things that you want to consider when you're developing your communication. Okay, step 2 is your timeline. Ooh, scary. It needs to be finished by May 31st. Today is April 8th. Is it doable? Sure, if you plan. You have 51 potential production days, and I know that might sound like a lot, but it's really not. Your storyboard, and we're going to talk about storyboards a little later, is due April 15th. Production should take up 3/4 of the project, okay? So roughly 38 of those days are going to be in the production process. That's not for editing of the video. This is before you even get to the point where someone is editing the video. 38 of those days should be spent in the process of production, in capturing video, in figuring out, you know, what still shots you're going to use, what music you're going to use, what makes sense, and all that. That's all production. That should take up 3/4 of the project, 38 days. So 38 days from today, you should be done with your production. That leaves you 13 days for editing. One way to work as a team, an easy way that I have found, is to use my group-wise calendar. I know a lot of people don't do this, but what happens is if you were to, say, go to GroupWise and say you wanted to make a new appointment, and they asked you, well, who do you want to make your appointment with? If you went up there and did a busy search on me, you would be able to find out a good time to ask me to have an appointment, because every meeting I have when I'm not available is on my GroupWise calendar. The GroupWise calendar is one tab over from where you receive your emails from. It's in the same space, just one tab over if you haven't used it before. And if you put your information in there, like, you know, when you have your classes, when you have practice, when you have student organization or whatever, if you have that in there, it makes it easy to work as a team, because if everybody's doing that, then you're able to search. And you can say, I need to do a busy search on this person, and I'm going to find out at this group of 5 people when's the best time for us to meet to do whatever it is we have to do. You can use other types of calendaring system. A lot of people use Google Calendar to do it, or you know, there's all types of calendaring you could, you know, set up a group for, but that's up to you. But what I'm saying is, in order to make yourself available to your group, for this class or any class, GroupWise is a tool you already have, and it's easy to use. Your team. So let's talk about your team. Who's going to do what? That's something that you have to decide. Here are some questions that you can ask to figure out who's going to do what on your team. Who has a creative eye? That can mean anything. That can mean that they can say, oh, this is a good shot. If we could set them here and this will be the background, this will be a good shot. Who is comfortable in front of the camera? If you're going to have someone who's going to have to be in front of the camera, make sure that person doesn't fidget or stumble or get nervous or look down. That person has to have the confidence to be in front of the camera. Who's a great organizer? This person is going to be really important to your team, and we'll talk about that a little more later. Who has the digital video cameras? Now, you can check out digital video cameras from the library. You can also check out tripods for them. But if people have ones that they want to use, you know, that's cool too, but you have to be willing to use them. Who has large blocks of time? By large, I mean who has 2 hours. So if you have to go out and do an interview with someone, who has that time that's going to be able to do that, and what does that look like, and how are you going to get that together? Who's comfortable working in a Mac environment, and who's comfortable working in a PC environment? You can do the video in either environment, no problem, but you have to stick with one environment or the other, okay? Because you have all kinds of problems if people are moving back and forth between environments when you are going to use one or the other to create the video. Once you start that the video creation process, it's very difficult to flip back into a PC environment. So figure out which environment you're going to work in and who's the most comfortable working in those environments. Who has a car if you have to do an interview off campus? Who's going to be able to drive you there? Who has the best voice for a voiceover? It's a very sad state of affairs when people have a great presentation, a great video, and then the person that they have doing the voiceover sounds like Kermit the Frog. Okay? You don't want that. No slight against Kermit, but he's not the best person to pick for your voiceover. So you're going to figure out who can sound natural, who can sound like they're having a conversation and that they're not reading from the script that you'll write. Document positions and sign an agreement to do what you say you'll do. And I think that a lot of people can understand when I say there's nothing worse than working in a group and ending up being the only person who does the work. That's annoying, it's a problem, and this year Dr. Hall has built into the process a penalty for you if you're that person who decides not to do what they're going to do, which means that you need to be honest with what you're able to contribute and what you're not able to contribute. If a team member isn't pulling his or her agreed weight, talk to Dr. Hall immediately. You can do that privately, but do it immediately. And then reflect that on your evaluation form. Each of you will receive an evaluation form to talk about the people in your group and how you felt that they contributed to the group, and that will be weighted equally with the other components on the rubric, and you can see all of that in your syllabus. Okay, so specifically who are the people that should be on your team? Well, you need a production planner. That's the person that I was talking about, the organized person. They keep track of the time, the appointments, the permissions, and the equipment. And we'll talk about permissions later. But someone who can keep track of everyone in your group and the equipment and the time and making sure we're getting the permissions for everything that we document. The narrator, who's going to do the voiceovers. The interviewer, who's going to prepare the questions. Who's going to interact with the interviewee on camera if you choose to do that. The film crew, who's going to set up and tear down, and who's going to be the environmental control people. That means keeping people from walking through the middle of your interview or walking in the door of your interview. And who are going to be the editors? Who are the people who, after that 38 days is over and you've collected all the information you're going to use for those 10 minutes, and believe me, you're going to need a lot of material. 10 minutes, you need a lot of material to fill up 10 minutes of time, okay? So you want to make sure that you have an overabundance of film and still shots and music and all the things that you're going to need so that you can use little pieces of it, because it doesn't really take that long to get your point across, and you can't belabor your point by leaving it on too long. So, but once you get all of your stuff together, who's going to weave your story? Who's going to choose which clips that you're going to use, and who's going to choose the music, and who's going to choose the title? That shouldn't be just one person, but some people might have that kind of time toward the end, that last 13 days. You kind of have to figure that out. Okay, so let's get into the meat of it. First of all, let me ask, and Dr. Hall, you can type in, does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So here's the meat of it, and if you've seen this kind of looks like an outline for a paper. And the fact is, when you're first conceptualizing what you're going to make your video about, it's very similar. You're going to start right here. This is what you're going to decide. You've already thought about your communication. You've already worked with your group and decided, here's what our communication is going to be about, and we're going to show you this, and we're going to show you this, and then we're going to show you this. So whatever your topic is, you're going to pick a few things within that topic that you're going to try to express with this video. So you're going to start there. Then after you're done with that, you're going to figure out what the hook's going to be. And from that, the reason that the hook is so important is, okay, 10 minutes, in some ways, it's a huge amount of time. In some ways, it's a short amount of time. But in this world of YouTube videos that last between 1 and 3 minutes, it's a considerable amount of time to hold someone's attention. So that means your hook really needs to be strong. How are you going to convince people in the beginning to really listen to what you have to say? Now, I'm not talking about, flash something on there that's going to get their attention. It needs to have to do with what you're going to talk about, but something that's going to pull them in. So now if you have, we're going to show you this and this and this, you have your hook, you just need to come up with a transition in between those. And then you start off weaving your story. The first thing you do is you're going to go to this number 1 right here. I'm going to show you this. You're going to restate that in some incredibly clever way. And then the rest of the images and the voice, so it could be video, which gives you video and voice, or it could be still shots with your voiceovers. It's going to support this first statement. There's going to be all these supporting points that you're going to talk about. Okay? And then you'll transition to the next point. When you get to the next point, you're going to say, okay, now let's go back up here. The second point we're trying to show you is this. Don't just say it. The second point we're going to show you is this. You're going to come up with some clever way of saying that without letting people know that that's what you're trying to say. Then you're going to come up with your support points for the second point. You're going to do that again down here in D. This is point 3. And then finally you're going to summarize. You're going to, again, be incredibly clever in summarizing exactly what we've just shown you. And then the most important part is, tell me what you want me to get out of it. Now, again, I don't want you to say, what we want you to get out of this is, no, you're going to take all the things that you talked about and in some way give that audience something profound to think about, something that's going to leave this in their head, okay, after they are finished with the video. Something that has to do with what you were talking about, maybe a forward-thinking sort of thing is, if we don't do something about this, what can happen? Open-ended questions. There's all sorts of ways that you can do that. Leaving them with a quote that's an important quote from a person that would have something to do with the things that you talked about personally. There's all sorts of things that you can wrap that up with. But this is the template that you're going to use. And by the way, I will be sending you, Dr. Hall these slides that he can forward to you so that you can see all this that we talked about. I guess I should have told you that first, huh? Okay, so back here we have your written down outline of basically what you're going to want your presentation to talk about, right? So we've got that, and we're happy about that. Now we have to take the written version and turn it into our visual version. It's basically what you said back here turned into visuals. Okay, now I don't care if this area right here, oops, isn't that cool? I don't care if that's a stick figure. I don't care what that is. Whatever you want to put in there to visually show what this says back here, okay? You're going to show us the story of the story you're going to tell. So you're going to give us a visual here, and then you're going to give an overview, just a short overview of what this is going to say. You're going to take out the major points. You're going to make them here so that we can kind of visually see what you plan to put in these things. Okay, because you're going to draw it here and describe it here. What do you visually plan to put in these areas? Okay, that are going to end up being your story. And then you're going to turn that storyboard in, I think is April 15th, I think it's due. Isn't that what I said? So, we're here. Awesome. By here, you should be here by that first deadline for the storyboard. Then after that, how do you take it from what you have here to really enabling your vision? Okay, here's your vision, and here's how we're going to enable your vision to make sure that this turns out a really good final product. We're going to enable your vision. First of all, the first thing that you have to do to help you enable your vision is you have to complete the human subjects tutorial. Now, that information is on your syllabus, and it talks about how you link to it and how you take it. And you at the end of it, you'll be able to print out a certificate. You need to provide Dr. Hall with that certificate before you can continue with any interviews that you're going to do. Okay? It's a really good tutorial. It lets you know a little bit of the history of primary research when human subjects are involved, and it really kind of helps you to figure out how you're going to structure questions for your interviews and all of that. But that, in the end of it, and everyone has to do it, and you have to print out that certificate and bring it to Dr. Hall before you can do your first interview. Does anybody have any questions so far? There is a link on the syllabus. No questions? Okay. All right. Secondly, you're going to schedule your shoots. You want to have your production manager, that person that's really organized. The best organizational skills, keep on track of your production calendar. Make sure that you are keeping on your timeline. That person is going to keep track of permissions, because one of the things that you'll learn when you take the tutorials is that you have to have permission before you're interviewing people. So you're or sometimes taking pictures of people. So your permissions, locations, transportation, equipment, they're not going to do all those things. They're going to keep track of who's supposed to do all of those things. And then schedule appointments with your interviewees. Okay, let me make sure I'm still in here. Okay. Schedule appointments with your interviewees. Make sure you have all the required permissions to shoot who, what, and where you're going to be shooting. And again, once you reach this the complete human subjects tutorial, you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about here. Now you're ready to shoot, right? Well, almost. In a perfect world, the wind would never blow. Well, let me say, in a perfect video shooting world, the light would always be perfect, the wind would never blow, no one would be making external noise, all right? But we don't have a perfect world, all right? And so we have to deal the best way we can. But I do have some suggestions to make sure that you have quality video, because that's going to be part of your grade too, the quality of the video that you produce. And when I'm talking about video, that could be video that you've shot, that could be still shots that you've used, that could be video that you've pulled off of YouTube or whatever. So here's some things to remember. One is, the more camera angles, the better, okay? So if you have, and let me give you a great example of why. Let's say you have a gentleman that you are interviewing and you're videoing him, okay? And you don't want to use all the middle stuff. You want to use the beginning of what he said, and you want to use the end of what he said, all right? The problem is, when you cut out the middle, he's moved his head, and so what happens is no matter how good you transition, it makes his head look like it's jerking or something else is going on besides, you know, what has happened is it's just there's no good way to transition. So what you want to do is, if you have the two cameras on that person, then you could naturally, when you're moving from one topic to another, you change the camera angles, and it looks more natural. It looks like that was the next thing he was talking about. Make sure you have adequate lighting, but not too much, okay? So what does that mean? That means that you don't want the person squinting, okay? You don't want to be half in shadow, half in light. You definitely don't want to be shooting at the person when they have a light behind them, say there's a window behind them, that causes problems. So you just want to make sure that you're in a place where you can see the video very well, and it's not so dark that you're having to lighten it, it makes it look grainy. It's not so light that you're having to darken it makes it look not natural. So you want to kind of check out your lighting. You don't need a light box. You don't need, natural lighting is fine. Just make sure you're in a good space with it. Okay, always use a tripod or monopod. You can get tripods if you borrow them. If you borrow your camera from the library, you can get the tripod from the library. But use a tripod or a monopod. I don't care how steady you think your hands are. They will always move around more than you would with a tripod or a monopod. And it's really frustrating to have good information that you've gotten from an interview and not be able to use it because the video is bad because there was jiggling. Don't use the camera to zoom in and out. Let your editor do that, because camera zooms, even the best camera zooms, are still jerkier than actually zooming in and out in editing. So don't use the camera. Just get it set, get a good space away from the person, set it at what you want it to look like most of the time, and leave it there. Interviews, especially the person behind the camera or the crew, don't make noise, because the camera will automatically pick up whatever is closest to it. Okay? So you can't be the person who's going to be asking the questions and running the camera. That doesn't work, because there's too much of a difference between you can tell the person is right behind the camera, and then the person then the camera has to go farther away to get the sound of the person that you're interviewing's voice. So don't be the person who's behind the camera and asking the questions. There are some videos that work like that. The YouTube videos, great, that's fine, but that's not what we're going for here. Don't try to do an interview in a noisy place like the Cirque, because it will pick up the ambient noise that's closest to it. The mics will. So those are just some ideas. Okay. So now you're ready to shoot, right? Best quality possible makes for the best video possible. Now you come to the creative part, the actual part where you can use stuff from the web. You can use YouTube. You can shoot your own pictures. You can shoot your own video. You can get still shots from the web or still shots from personal collections, and do your voiceover. All of these are going to be the different types of media that you're going to be collecting. So you need to make sure that as you're collecting them, that you're getting them into a computer, and that all of that, or onto a drive, that all of that is a place where you can collect it. Now, what I would say is, so that you're not using so much of your time, is if you know you have video you're not going to use because there's crud on either side of it, cut out the part you aren't going to use and save that for the editing process. So you're going to use original video, you might use web video, original still shots, web still shots, voiceovers, audio, background music, and those are all decisions that you have to make. Make sure things like for the audio, for the background music, make sure that your background music is not intrusive, that people can speak over the top of it when that needs to happen, okay? Don't use background music in one shot or a bunch of shots to do a slideshow because you happen to like what the music is saying and that's really what you want to bring forward. That's not what this is about. This is visual and audio together. So if it works, great. Don't use somebody else's video for most of the time. You're going to get an F on the project, I can promise you. This is all about how do you take original video, web video, original still shots, web still shots, voiceovers, and audio, and mix those all together to make a good product. Any questions so far? No. Okay. So this part is okay. I need to type something in here real quick and say you have it all covered. Okay, one more thing. We have one more place to go, but I have to type it in first. Sorry about that. I can't seem to keep this saved anywhere. I'm typing. Sorry, guys. I just got to get this as I want to show you the last part here. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take you with me out onto the internet. Okay. So here we are. This is if you're going to use Windows, because you can use, again, you can use the Mac, you use Windows. I'm going to show you Windows just to show you how easy it is. This is called Make a Movie in 4 Simple Steps, and that really is what it is. It's so simple, because it's going to take you from step 1, how to get your videos and photos onto your computer, and it steps you right through it. And then it goes to step 2, shows you how to start editing. All right. Now, one thing I will say about editing is this. If you have not done video editing before, don't get enamored with transitions, okay? There's nothing uglier than a funky, I don't know, checker box transition or a cool wipe transition, okay? You want to use fade transitions. Just fade it. That's what, short fades, that is what looks professional. Same thing when you're doing some of your text or effects or transitions, because the thing that they're going to show you here is adding text and transitions and effects. Don't get crazy with that. We want a professional looking, sort of a documentary-ish product. And we're not trying to see all the cool things that you can do with transitions, effects, and text, because really it takes away from the story that you're trying to tell. And then finally, it shows you how to publish your movie in different ways. And you can publish it however you want, as long as your group agrees it's your movie. But in the end, you'll want to burn it to a DVD to give to Dr. Hall, and it shows you how to do that there. And it also shows you the same thing when you're working with Mac. So, and very important, do not forget your citations and your credits. You're going to be going out there and researching information. And the thing is, sometimes we don't think about visual information or video that we pull or music that we use or pictures that we find or anything like that. You need to cite those. This is just like a paper. Now, your credits are going to be a little different than normal credits. If you use either one of those video editing software, they'll show you how to do rolling credits. But you want to make sure that yours are like a bibliography. They'll read like a bibliography. It'll tell where you got the information, if you got it from online, when you accessed it, all the requirements that you have. So that will be a little different, but this is an academic process, and we want to make sure that anything you use is cited correctly. So, I'll ask this for the last time. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and good luck on your project.